Hello everyone, my name is Jesse. I'm from RDBK team. We're working on a game called Renown. I'm here with Kaz.
Hello?
And also Charlie.
Oh.
And we're here for the Melbourne's International Games Week, a celebration of all things games in Victoria, Australia. And we thought we'd go through a bit about what we're creating and what we're doing here for Steam. And we're making a medieval survival game called Renown. So the long story short of it all is it's a PvP, skill-based combat-orientated survival game with a large emphasis on raiding and quick progression with crafting weapons and armor, farming resources. We want players to build large castles for themselves, create groups and alliances, and it's basically just a fast-paced survival game with a big emphasis on player versus player combat.
Indeed. We really want to entice the risk and reward feel with this sort of gameplay. So if you gather lots of resources, you got to keep that safe and get that home safely. So that's something to keep in mind. You can lose everything.
Very true.
Which I guess leads into one of our big draws, I guess, for the game, which is castle building and is building base in general. So a big part of survival games, at least the parts we enjoy, are those games where you get to build a good base that you get to feels like your home. And the reason why you'd build a castle in the medieval age is to build a nice place to put your stuff and keep safe. So naturally, the two fall together quite well in our game, I'd say. And it's the central sort of thing, is that you go out, you get resources, and you're able to build up from basically a wooden log hut, I guess you could say, all the way up to quite large compound, almost fortress, what we'd call a fortress in the modern day. With quite a lot of amenities for both aggressive and defensive sort of actions.
Yeah.
As well as some nice stuff to make the castle look pretty and like your home.
And that's the other thing as well, is we want, like what Charlie said, is gaining all that resources and storing it in this base that you create from scratch. We want players to be able to take that from other people, like we want to entice people to fight over land. And if anyone's encroaching on your space or taking that resource that you're trying to get, we want to give that opportunity for people to go and take those players out. So raiding is a huge aspect of the game with trebuchet. Well, actually, you start off with a smaller sort of means from using handheld weapons, doing very little damage, bashing down wooden doors, up to battering rams and catapults, and of course, lastly, trebuchet to really just destroy your enemies. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and you'll be seeing that in the demo this week.
Indeed. I also should bring up, you don't want those castles to be empty, so there's a lot of crafting. So you want good, you want a blacksmith table, you want all the things that you need to make everything. So you will have things to fill out your castle with and make it feel even more homely. And we hope to add RP elements to make that even more feel like home.
Yeah, like we want people to be able to furnish their houses how they'd like and make it really feel like a castle. In the test there won't be any furniture at the time being, just the progression tables and things that you need to actually get through the game. But in the future we'd definitely like to introduce those things.
Big part of our community has put forward that they'd like that kind of stuff. And of course, we'd like to oblige.
Indeed.
But indeed. I suppose that does also lead into mentioning, though, that it's not all blood and guts in combat. In a survival game itself, there is a lot of social interaction, whether that's inside your group or with other groups or as solos, making groups, maybe not making groups. But a large part of the game comes down to talking to folks and actually sort of working through things. And when you don't have a gun to shoot the other person from several hundred meters away, there's quite a lot more time for actual conversation. It's something we've found in the tests has actually been a lot less toxic than you'd imagine, and a lot more conversation than you'd expect in these types of games. I suppose it sort of helps when you can walk up and hit the person with a stick. That's very sharp and metal. But
I should add, so like this game is based around small teams, mainly 4 to 5, maybe 6, maybe 8. But it's not a big medieval warfare game where there's massive armies charging at each other. So it's more personal, and you really do interact with each other a lot more than you would with that sort of gameplay. And that's the reason we've done it this way.
Yeah, and we really want to emphasize the feeling of it being fast-paced and not. We don't want people feeling like they need to grind for hours and hours to get to. When I say hours, like days. It's we want the process of the game to last over a week, and then wipe at the end of the week for players to start again. We want that feeling of, let's say, one wipe, you create what you think is your perfect castle. You get raided. There was a couple of issues with your design. Next wipe, you want to put that into practice, and that's the same with how you fight. What progression line in the skill tree you might decide to go down. Do I go down longswords, or would I prefer to pick axes or pole arms? And those are sort of the decisions you'll make as you go. And we want players week to week to refine their process and really sort of get better at doing that.
Yeah, I should add to that, there will be range combat as well. So, like, you will always want some archers with you to take out the guys in the tower shooting down at your guys with shields and whatnot. So it is a team-based game. Like, you can solo, and that is fun. I do that a lot myself, but it is team-based, team-orientated, let's put it that way.
Bit harder.
I suppose the archery brings up a question too, which we have made quite a good focus, at least we've attempted to put a focus on armor itself, protecting not only from getting hit in melee, but the real reason you want to wear that is so you don't get shot in the back by the archer who's sort of in the back line or whatnot. So that is something to just keep in mind. Archery, we want to have a good core feature of the game, but there is also a melee base to the game. Exactly. And the way that we've done armor is to enforce that melee. And that leads into the regression that Jesse mentioned earlier.
We don't want snipers, essentially.
Yeah. And that's really, like, the long story short of it is that's the game. We're not trying to make something overly complicated. Tried and true survival game with a strong emphasis on PvP.
Yeah. Week later, 2 weeks later, restarts. Go again.
Yeah.
Find those enemies who took you out. Rebuild that base, build something better, stronger, as Jesse said, and see if you're the winner that one. Who's the most renowned that week?
Yeah. And that being said, we want people to also have things they can work towards long term. We understand that there's a lot of people that probably aren't happy about weekly wipes or bi-weekly wipes, and to say as well, we really want to endorse community servers. So the official servers will be what we balance the game to, but we want people to come in, create their own servers. We already have options there for people to change how they want their server to be run, the rates, the times between wipes, that sort of thing. But another thing that we want to keep players interested in long term is the Renown system. So basically, you can basically like an ongoing leaderboard and something you can work towards. Where, say, if you spend a lot of time cutting wood or crafting a certain piece of armor, you can get points for doing that. That can unlock cosmetics or titles and things of that nature. And we want that to continue on every server across multiple wipes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Probably mentioned.
Sorry. No, you.
No, you.
Yeah, so the next thing is like what we're offering for the demo coming up. So, if anyone wants to take this.
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, I guess that probably writes it up for everything about Renown, and you'll be able to play the game at the demo, and that's why we're here. Is we have a lot of people in our Discord that is our community that follows us, and that's where we tend to post everything about the game. But we were invited to come to Melbourne International Games Week and talk about a game here this week. So we decided to run a stress test of the survival mode. And that's actually one of the first time we've had an open test of the survival mode of the game. But that's not the only thing you have access to. We'll also be running raid module, which is a little different, and it's something we've done in the past and people actually really liked. Would someone like to explain a bit about like what raid module is?
Sure thing, I'll go. Yeah. So raid mode, effectively, if you think about get the whole week-long wipe of a survival and shorten it down to an afternoon or a day-long experience. So you start with a little pre-built castle, very not too big, something small, bit of resources and a bit of progression already in place. There's set teams ahead of time, and then you go for it. You have your raid, and then it starts again. So it's a nice, quick, fun experience that we originally used just to test as we progressed physically as devs to this point in the game. We made this raid mode as a way to test with our players. We got quite good feedback that people enjoyed it, so we've just decided to bring it back and keep it as a full-time thing, effectively.
Indeed.
So that we'll be showcasing that off at this demo.
Yeah.
I should add to that, it isn't just a 1v1 experience, like 1v1 team experience. It's you can have multiple teams. So there is, we have seen this, that there are alliances formed to take out the bigger team or whatnot. So that's really cool to see, and I really enjoy that myself.
Yeah.
Indeed,
And it's definitely something that we want to, because like as Charlie said, it was something that was literally just made to test all the survival features in a quick test, so we can get as much feedback over the entire game as quickly as possible. But because it did so well and people loved it so much, we're definitely going to continue developing that alongside the survival and have that available on release as well. And we may even have a matchmaking system and possibly ranked. I mean, it's the sort of thing where I would love to see pre-made groups of people coming together to raid each other and make tactics. I remember there was a couple of groups that got really into it. And it was like a speed run, every person had planned exactly what one person was getting wood, one person was doing this at a certain time. They'd all get together and then go rush this area. It was fantastic to see. So a lot of fun.
Very much entices competitive gameplay, which is very cool.
Absolutely. Suppose leading in from that too, we should absolutely be thanking our amazing community and our backers, who not only have financially supported us through the last couple of years of development, 3-4 years of development, but are also our main testers. They're the main people who give us feedback and are regularly discussing and chatting and just giving suggestions, questions. So thank you so much. From the bottom of our hearts, we would not be here without you.
Literally.
Yeah, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Literally.
And we owe everything to them, and we hope we're doing a good job and staying true to what we're trying to create, and we're really getting there. So thank you so much, everyone. I should say
we do try and listen to our community as much as possible, and we want them to have a good time. That's the whole reason we're making the game, right? Like, it's not our own personal views. So
yeah. Getting into a Discord, constantly having discussions. We're all in there talking. We try and just get involved with the conversations going on and ask questions if you have any, and we'll answer them and things like that.
Hopefully, there should be a link somewhere around here to find a link to our Discord. That way, you can join the community if you'd like and have a chat.
Yeah. So I guess it might be a good time for us to maybe go through some of the things that we're working on right now. Maybe some of the things that we're going to be doing soon. Some new cool ideas that we're hoping to implement. That maybe people haven't heard about yet. Did anyone want to take us away with what we've been doing right now?
Yeah, sure. Well, the big one that this is what I was talking about. Community were happy with how the game's going, but they were really upset on the animation state, which is completely understandable, and we totally get that. So we were like, yep, we need to make them better. So we've opted for motion capture, which is the best possible route to make realistic animations and make it more smooth and everything that they want. So if someone wants to lead on how we've gone with that.
So we've entered into a partnership with a virtual production company called Dreamscreen Australia. They're here in Melbourne with us, and they've given us access to their studio to make use of their optical motion capture equipment, and it's a wonderful partnership that we've got there. So please look them up if you're interested in Melbourne-based film and television with virtual production, and that's where we do it all. So we go in there and Kaz is our resident mocap actor. Doing all the hard yards. We're getting him to do things over and over again for a few hours until he passes out. And it's really coming along. And we'll have some images here, hopefully, of what we're doing. And they will be able to see in the game some of the stuff we've worked on. We've been working on the unarmed and the fist animations because they were sort of the ones that were lacking the most. They still need work and they still need to be cleaned up, but it should give a better understanding of the quality that we're going for.
Yeah, the direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool beans. So I guess the other big one, well, again, shout out to Dreamscreen Australia as well. That's Dreamscreen Australia. They are awesome folks. They do some amazing work. And they've been great to us. They've helped us out mightily.
Helped us immensely.
That's very true.
Big shout out to them. Big shout out. You're in the industry. I suppose the next big area we've been working on has been the transfer to UE5. That's Unreal Engine 5. Would one of you gents like to lead us off on that?
Yeah, Jesse?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So we stuck with UE4 for a long time, just waiting until UE5 was a bit more stable to move over, and that's what we've been doing in the last, I think it's probably been a month or so, is of the swap over, which sort of put a clamp on a lot of the work that we're doing, and is why people probably didn't see much from us over that time, because you can't work on the engine while everything's being ported over, so we had to do sort of other things in the meantime and get everything up and running again. But because of that, we now are completely swapped over, and we have access to a lot of the new features that are available through UE5. They've done an amazing job. I mean, just right off the bat, the game already looks better without changing a thing. They also have introduced Nanite, which we're still setting up, so until that's fully set up, we probably won't have the performance increases that offers until it's completely up and running. And then, of course, things like Lumen, which is a better way of lighting the environment. That is performance intensive, and you can turn that off if it's costing you too many frames in the demo. But that is there to increase the look of things. And one of the things I'm most excited about is the new world-building options they have, like procedural foliage generation and the map building and how you can create large maps. If Kaz, I think probably be a good one for you to go through on the map creation side.
I think you've covered most of it, but literally, we want the procedural foliage tool is so good because we're making such a big survival map, and we wanted to expand what you'll see in the demo about 4 times, so people can really live in their zones and really make settlements and stuff, and then fight other clans. But we want to diverse it with biomes and stuff like that. We want a desert biome, we want a snow biome, meadows, swamps, and forests. So we've got a few of them already nutted out, but we're on our way to getting all the others done as well. But yeah, the main thing UE5 adds to that is the optimization of those, adding that all together, and the big thing, the big map being separated via optimization.
Yeah,
which I don't think we've had before, which is really nice.
Be very nice. So that's going to be very cool, and we hope to have a lot more points of interest and things like that in the larger map. And you'll need a way to get around the larger map. So we're thinking of adding horses. If you wanted to go through that, Charlie, you want to cover that?
Yeah, sure thing. So the way we want to do horses is a little bit different from the way we've seen them portrayed in a lot of the medieval games that you might have played, which we don't think they've done quite justice to sort of how powerful and useful a horse would have been back then. So one of the main ones that we sort of say on the team is it's a horse, not a bike. It should basically be able to move in a lot of different ways that you'd expect and a lot more naturally to your body, sort of that you would expect. Which when you add in our combat system and the way you can lean forward and back and we're hoping to make quite a unique experience when it comes to cavalry versus cavalry warfare and cavalry versus ground warfare. And that's where you sort of come in with the archery and adding in people with pikes, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
The other one, which horses naturally lend themselves to, which I think we'll have to be starting with this, it's just a way to stop it being a walking simulator. No one really likes to be walking everywhere. If you can speed that process up, that's all the good. Which I think before we get the combat stuff rigged up, it'll likely just be a transport method.
Exactly. On that, we will add horse armors, like the armor tiers throughout the progression, just like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So it would be leather, chainmail, and plate. But then it's also have tabards and stuff like that to show your colors, because that's a big thing we want as well. Customization, so everyone to feel like your team. You really want to show your colors off, and that's a big thing of the medieval ages. Everyone really actually wore a lot of bright colors, which isn't portrayed a lot, which is weird. But yeah, it is what it is. And so that would be cool. Horses will just lend itself to that as well. Especially we'll add jousting, like lancing, couching your lances. There's just so many cool things you can do with horses, and it's paramount for a big survival map. Otherwise, you're just gonna get bored walking.
Especially when we get the new map up and running.
Yeah,
then it's gonna take an hour to get from one point to the other. And that's actually a good thing that we didn't cover, is just the amount of work that we've done for customization. Every piece of armor, maybe a couple we don't have, but almost all pieces of armor, especially the main ones, can be customized in some way, from changing the overall color to the current skin of that armor, the type of armor, the tint of the metal. You can add emblems, change the color of the emblems, the different patterns of the colors on your armor and shields as well. So we want all that to be very present in the game. You'll be able to see a lot of that's already implemented now. And then eventually we'll want to add things like placing banners down, or even adding a banner to your spear that you can have showing your colors, and as Kaz said, on your horses and everything like that. So it's going to be very cool.
I mean, I could flow off that a little bit. Like, we really want durability. Well, this is something I've really wanted to implement, is durability awareness. So, like, if your armor's getting battered, you want to be able to visually see that. So I've really wanted to show dints in your helmet and stuff like that. Like, your armor is getting worn out, you need to fix it, repair it, or get new armor. And that's a thing in real life as well. Like, there's only so many battles you can have before your armor is destroyed. So
yeah, and especially if you and it's getting less useful. So if you're seeing someone that's wearing like completely battered armor, you'll know you're going to have a better chance if you're in the same armor than them, because you're like, well, they're going to be taking a bit more damage because that armor is basically falling off them. And that's all things, and as well as like getting covered in blood if you've killed someone, if you've had a big fight. So that's all some very cool stuff that's in currently, and you can check that out. I guess the next thing to go through is some of the things you can find on the map, and some of the things we're working on the map front.
So on the map currently, we have split it between the wild, and then in the wild we have got points of interest and the safe zone. So very briefly, the safe zone's simply a place you can either load into naked or you can travel to on foot, where combat's not allowed outside of a dueling arena, and trading can occur and various other things, which we'll lead into in a minute. The thing I wanted to mention first up was the points of interest. That's the other part of the world that we're split into. So effectively speaking, what we want to do is have areas of the map which draw players in for confrontations. Effectively speaking, a area like what we've got right now on the demo you might play is Winterhold. That's every hour a horn goes off, the gates open, and you have to make a decision. Say you're right next door farming or doing something like that. Are you going to run in there? You're going to just try and grab some loot and then try and dodge around the NPCs that are there to guard with, and they're pretty dangerous NPCs. Or are you going to come with a big group and try and actually fight over that point? In which case, there's going to be other groups doing it. So we're hoping to expand that, add a lot more points of interest. But that sort of ties directly into the next thing, which is our mission system, which maybe I'll hand over to Kaz for that one.
yeah, sure. We want at our safe zone to have like a bulletin board for quests and whatnot. So you can go to the bulletin board, find some quests to do, and it gains you loot, or like, it's always a game, so you want to do it. And this entices PvP because there's things like quests like bounty hunter missions where like it's telling you to go take this guy out, which will be an NPC guarded by other men and whatnot. And then once you accept that mission will pop up for other people to defend this person. So it will engage players in that sense as well. But there'll also be other missions like basic fetch missions where you go gather wood, bring that back, earn more money. Like, we just wanted to make it feel like there's more to do in the world than just the basic survival game.
Yeah, and it also really leads back into the whole social interaction side of things. We want players to feel like they're being drawn together for both, good reasons or bad reasons, and having to fight each other. And there's a mission that I really want to get in, which is basically like exponential sort of reward systems, where say you take the mission and at the start it's a simple one, just go and kill another player. But when you do that, it says if you'd like to continue, it will increase the reward if you risk it. But then another person could take a different mission that's go and find someone who's doing that mission and kill them and take the reward for themselves. So it's that sort of things like, okay, do I risk this and continue killing players and keeping myself alive in the hopes I can get back alive and hand in a bunch of kills and get a huge reward, or just take the safe bet? We want to really capitalize on all that sort of thing, and that's probably a good one to go into sort of events and things. Things that another thing that draw players together and we have a few of those, like Charlie mentioned, is Winterhold.
Yeah, so we'll have stuff like horse and carriage that will roll through the map with, like, say, a lord in that horse and carriage and take him out, take his loot, but then there'll be like defend that horse and carriage, that sort of thing. We want a lot of PvP based quests, but we also do want PvE for the solos and whatnot. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, and even some combined around with points of interest. You know, an event that happens at another point. Like we have the Winterhold, which is it just opens and there's AI in there. But maybe even one that's more interesting. Like it could be a big castle raid of AI, and you're told to assist like one of the sides to help win, and maybe another person gets asked to do the other side. We really want to add these sort of levels of interaction into the world and make it feel a bit more alive. Because you know, running around by yourself or with a group can get a bit draining after a while, and you want those extra things to work on, or even when a wipe gets close to the end, mission systems and events can just keep a bit of interest.
I suppose one other thing to add here too is these missions and all that are not intended to be grinding rep or increasing your levels or anything like that. They're missions intended to bring players together, for good or bad, for the purpose of having fun, right? Like it's not a farm up with the traders type situation.
Yeah,
very much a dynamic game play.
I should bring up also that we've only spoken about Winterhold, but there is a lot of POIs in the current demo, which are just smaller based, like, you know, abandoned houses, windmills, stuff like that, where you can just go for loot and you will find loot. But you've got to be careful because there's a point of interest. More people want the same thing, so you're going to run into people. But that's another way of drawing players together, because we don't want this whole walking simulator thing where people just endlessly walking for no reason. We want people to go to the same spots for the game. Yeah.
Well, the same thing with hotspots as well, like increased loot spawns for like actual resources. So like an idea we were throwing around was having like a logging camp where we can go and there's no AI there or anything like that, but you go and you farm like piles of wood, or you can loot piles of wood that save you, say, an hour of farming wood, and you can go there and get resources quicker rather than things like gold and things for progression, specifically for the tech tree and things like that. So there's a lot to do, and a lot of these things you'll be able to experience in the demo at the moment as well. And there's another system that we'd like to implement soon, at least a testing version of it, called the territory system, and that's one that we're all very excited for, because it allows players to place their stake in the world. Every banner that you place, which is what looks after your land claim, basically will that area in which you've claimed is now visible on a map as your kingdom or your group. And there's some really cool things we want to add where you can approach another group and ask them if they'd like to join under your banner, and your territory will expand. We don't want to do any sort of tax systems or things like that. It's a purely map-based claim sort of system, but we think that will make players want to take out other people.
I'm sure players will enforce taxes in their own territories and whatnot, but that's up to them. That's not us. Territories would be cool because it's a very medieval thing, you know. Like, it was always a fight over land in those times. So we really want to introduce that. Yeah. That feeling of power, let's say.
Oh yeah.
Indeed. Oh, I suppose with that, we should thank everyone for watching. We very much hope you enjoy the Melbourne International Games Week, and please make sure to check out Renown on Steam.
Yeah.
If you enjoy the demo, be sure to come support our work and help us out, help us get to the end.
Or just come say hello. You know, we're all chatting in Discord, so join our community and come join everyone talking about the game and trying to make it as good as it can be. If you have ideas and things like that, we do take things on board. Some of the things we have added, weren't our ideas. So, community, and we hope to run more of these open tests on Steam so people can come in and try the game. We're trying to be as open about the development plan that we've got. We really need that feedback of people telling us what feels good or feels bad. And we think maybe open tests are the best way of doing that, especially to stress test the servers. So thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks.